The heart monitor was the first thing I heard. Not voices. Not footsteps. Not my own breathing. Just that cold mechanical beep cutting through the dark like it had been waiting for me to come back. For one terrible second I thought I was dead, and this was what forever sounded like. Then the pain hit. My head felt split open. My chest burned. My throat was so dry it felt lined with broken glass. I tried to move and every part of me screamed. I forced my eyes open. White ceiling. Harsh lights. The smell of antiseptic. A hospital room. And the strangest feeling of all was this certainty that something had gone horribly wrong before I even knew what it was. A shape moved beside me, and suddenly a nurse was leaning into view with tears in her eyes and relief all over her face. Thank God. Kylie, you are awake. I tried to speak, but nothing came out except a broken rasp. Water. She helped me drink from a plastic cup, one small sip at a time, like I was learning how to exist all over again. You were in a serious car accident, she said softly. Head trauma, internal injuries, multiple surgeries. The doctors kept you in an induced coma to reduce swelling. You have been unconscious for almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The number slammed into me harder than the pain. 3 weeks was not a gap in time. 3 weeks was enough time for people to make choices. Enough time for secrets to grow teeth. Enough time for lives to shift in ways that could never be undone. My lips trembled. Where is Adam? The nurse hesitated. My fiancé. Her face changed in a way that made my stomach drop before she even answered. Her relief dimmed. Her eyes darted toward the door. I will get the doctor, she said too quickly and hurried out. That was the moment I knew. I did not know what had happened yet, but I knew the shape of betrayal before I could name it. I knew it in the silence she left behind. I knew it in the way my own pulse started hammering against the machines. My phone sat on the bedside table. I reached for it with a hand that would not stop shaking. 27 missed calls. Hundreds of messages. At first they made no sense. I was still groggy. Still fighting through medication and fog and pain. But then a phrase kept repeating. Congratulations to the happy couple. Beautiful ceremony. Caitlin looks stunning. So happy for Adam and Caitlin. My sister's name. Over and over. My blood went cold. I opened social media, and the first picture loaded slowly, as if the universe itself wanted to give me one last chance not to see it. There they were. My sister Caitlin in a white wedding dress. My dress. The one I had spent 4 months choosing. The one I had cried over when I found it because it felt like stepping into the life I had always wanted. And beside her was Adam. My Adam. My fiancé. My mouth fell open but no sound came out. They were smiling at the camera like the world belonged to them. Like nothing had been stolen. Like no one was missing. Another photo. Them exchanging rings. Another. Them kissing under the floral arch I had designed myself. Another. Them in the honeymoon suite I had booked. I stared so hard my vision blurred. No. It came out as a whisper at first. No. Then louder. No, no, no. The door opened behind me and I jerked so hard pain shot through my body. Olive rushed in and the second she saw the phone in my hand she stopped dead. Olive was my best friend since college. She knew every version of me. The fearless one. The broken one. The one who still believed love was worth risking everything for. Now she looked like someone walking into a funeral too late. Oh God, she said. Kylie. I lifted the phone toward her. Tell me this is fake. She crossed the room fast and grabbed my hand, but she did not answer. Tell me this is some kind of nightmare. Tell me I am hallucinating. Tell me the medication messed with my brain. Olive closed her eyes for a second like she hated herself for what she had to say next. I tried to stop it, she whispered. Quincy tried too. Your mother kept saying everyone should wait, but Caitlin moved fast. Too fast. She told everyone the doctors were not sure you would wake up. She said Adam was falling apart. She said you would have wanted the wedding to go on. She said if anyone truly loved you they would help Adam through his grief. My grief. I swallowed so hard it hurt. I was not dead. She made people act like you were. The room tilted. How long after my accident? Olive looked away. 12 days. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because if I did not laugh, I might start screaming and never stop. 12 days. 12 days after I was put into a coma, my sister married my fiancé in my dress at my venue, and convinced people it was somehow noble. My chest tightened. Where is she now? Olive answered carefully. Bali. The honeymoon resort you booked. Of course. Of course she had not just taken the man. She had taken the entire future. The trips we planned. The promises. The details. The private little dreams. She had stolen my life like she was putting on a coat she thought fit her better. A doctor came in then with a clipboard and a rehearsed smile. Miss Sullivan, good to see you awake. We should go over your neurological response, Anne. Like my sister stole my life while I was in a coma, I said flatly. That is how I am feeling. He cleared his throat and tried not to look uncomfortable. Right? Well. We want to monitor you for a few more days. When can I leave? That depends on your strength, mobility, and whether there are any complications. When can I leave? A few days at least. I nodded like I accepted that. I did not. Because underneath the pain and the confusion and the betrayal, something else had already begun to wake up in me. Something cold. Something patient. Something that understood one thing with perfect clarity. If Caitlin had used my silence to rewrite my life, then the first thing I needed was the truth. Every ugly piece of it. The doctor left after testing my eyes and memory and reflexes. The second the door clicked shut, I turned back to Olive. Start at the beginning. Kylie, maybe not now. Now? She took a breath. The night before your final dress fitting you went out to run errands. Adam said he stayed home to finalize the playlist. You never came back. They found your car wrapped around a tree on the old highway road outside town. Who found me? Caitlin. I froze. What? She said she was driving by and saw the wreck. My skin prickled. That road was not on her way home. I know, Olive said. That was the first thing that bothered me too. And the police. They said it looked like brake failure. Your brake lines had been cut. The words landed in slow motion. Cut. Not worn out. Not damaged. Not failed. Cut. Deliberately. Someone tried to kill me. Olive leaned closer and lowered her voice. The police investigated, but they did not have enough to arrest anyone. And before anyone could figure out what really happened, Caitlin took over everything. The hospital. The wedding. Adam. Your family. She became the voice in every room before you could wake up and speak for yourself. I stared at her. Do you think she did it? Olive did not answer right away. I think she knows more than she should. Before I could ask more, my mother rushed in sobbing with relief. She threw her arms around me so tightly I almost cried from the pressure and the love and the grief all at once. My baby. My baby. I held her because suddenly I needed to know who was still real in this world. When she pulled back, I studied her face. Her eyes were red. Her smile looked exhausted. There was guilt there too, but not the kind Caitlin wore. Not sharp. Not calculating. More like the guilt of someone who knew a storm had been coming and prayed it would change direction. Mom? She brushed my hair back from my forehead. We are going to get through this. Where is Caitlin? Her expression faltered. Still overseas. With Adam. I looked away before she could see what that did to me. Later, after she left to get coffee, Olive told me something else. Quincy has been investigating. Quincy the photographer. He was supposed to shoot your wedding. After everything happened, he got suspicious. He has contacts. He started pulling threads. He found messages. Photos. Things Caitlin did not think anyone would ever see. Then why is he not here? Because what he found might be worse than we thought. I turned to her sharply. How much worse? Olive swallowed. Your father was involved somehow. That stopped me colder than anything else. My father Ivan was the ghost of our family. He drifted in and out of our lives just enough to create damage, then disappeared before anyone could hand him the bill. He had missed birthdays. Forgotten holidays. Showed up late to graduations. He had the talent of making absence feel like an accusation. What does Dad have to do with any of this? He was at the wedding. He and Caitlin have been close lately. And Quincy saw them arguing before the ceremony. Your father had documents. Caitlin looked terrified. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Adam. Just heard you are awake. We need to talk. Not are you okay? Not I am sorry. We need to talk. Like this was a misunderstanding. Like there was a version of events where he came out less monstrous if he found the right words. I showed Olive. She snatched the phone. Do not answer. I was not going to. But my pulse was racing again, for a different reason now. Not just betrayal. Curiosity. Fear. Because if brake lines were cut and my father had documents, and my sister married my fiancé inside 2 weeks, then this was not some spontaneous lapse in judgment. This was a plan. And the worst part was I could feel it. Like the truth was just on the other side of a locked door, and someone inside was holding the handle shut. That night after my mother left and the hospital hallway quieted down, Olive told me the rest in pieces, because the full picture was too ugly to say all at once. Caitlin and Adam had been meeting before my accident. Not once. Not twice. 4 months. Quincy had security stills from coffee shops, parking garages, hotel bars, places they never should have been together. There were messages too. Emotional ones first. Then intimate. Then secretive. Caitlin played the wounded sister. The overlooked daughter. The one who never got what I got. Adam apparently played the fool so well he stopped having to pretend. And then there was one message from the night of the accident. It is done. Come quick. Sent from Caitlin to Adam. A reply 3 minutes later. Are you sure about this? Then her answer. Trust me. It is better this way. The nurse had to sedate me after that because my blood pressure spiked so badly alarms started going off. I still remember lying there in the dark afterwards, staring at the ceiling while the drugs dragged at my mind and thinking one thought over and over. If that was only what Olive knew, then what was Quincy sitting on? 3 days later I was discharged. I should have felt grateful to be alive. Instead I felt like someone stepping out of a grave and into an ambush. Olive drove me to her apartment, because I refused to go home yet. Too many memories. Too many rooms that still belonged to a version of me who thought love and loyalty were safe things. Quincy was waiting in the living room, with a laptop open and files spread across the table like evidence in a murder trial. He hugged me gently. "Welcome back to the land of the living." I sat down slowly. "Show me everything." He did not sugarcoat it. First he pulled up the wedding photos. Not the public ones. The private ones. The candid shots the replacement photographer never meant anyone outside their little circle to see. In one image my father stood face to face with Caitlin moments before the ceremony. He looked furious. She looked cornered. Between them was a manila envelope and a document partially visible enough for Quincy to zoom in. Birth certificate. Mother's name. Not Rachel Sullivan. Silence filled the room. I stared so hard my eyes watered. "What is that?" Quincy leaned back. "It means Caitlin is not your mother's biological daughter." Olive covered her mouth. "No?" "Yes. According to what I found, your father had an affair 30 years ago with a woman named Margaret Wells. Caitlin was the result. Rachel raised her as her own. Only recently did Caitlin learn the truth. The air went out of me. My whole life I had believed Caitlin's bitterness came from comparison. Sibling rivalry. Small resentments grown poisonous over time. Now that theory cracked wide open. "Does Mom know?" Quincy nodded once. "I think she found out not long before your accident. That is why she has been so shaken. But there is more." He opened another file. Recovered cloud backups from Adam. Messages between him and Caitlin. At first it was emotional affair language. Confessions. Midnight comforts. Shared secrets. Then it darkened. Caitlin writing about feeling robbed of the life she deserved. Adam saying he felt trapped. Caitlin saying some people only let go when life forces them to. Adam asking what that meant. No answer. Then Quincy opened security footage from the mechanic's shop where my car had been serviced the day before the crash. A hooded figure approached my car late at night. Bent down near the front wheel. Stayed there for less than 2 minutes. Walked away. I leaned forward. "Can you enhance the face?" Quincy shook his head. "Watch this instead." He pulled up a timestamp. Then a credit card record. Adam's card used at the gas station next door 5 minutes later. The room went silent again. No one needed to say it. He was there. Maybe he cut the lines. Maybe he kept watch. Maybe both. But he was there. And whatever had happened to me was not an accident. My hands were trembling so hard I had to press them between my knees. Why would he do that? Olive answered before Quincy could. Because Caitlin convinced him this was temporary. Delay the wedding. Create distance. Break you two apart. Then grief and confusion would do the rest. She spoke like she was reasoning through madness. But I barely heard her. All I could think was that the man who kissed me goodbye that morning had already agreed to something monstrous. I remembered his hand on my cheek. Drive safe. The cruelty of that memory was almost worse than the footage. Quincy reached for another envelope. There is one more thing. Your father hired a private investigator years ago. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of fear. Maybe because secrets rot the people who keep them. These are the reports. Inside were DNA records, payment records, surveillance images, and a name. Margaret Wells. Where is she now? I asked. 20 minutes away. And she agreed to talk. We drove there before sunset. The house was small and neat with flower pots on the porch, and the kind of stillness that suggested a woman living alone had spent years learning how not to expect visitors. When she opened the door, I understood immediately why Quincy had gone quiet. She had Caitlin's eyes. Not just similar. The same eyes. "You must be Kylie," she said softly. Inside she served us tea with hands that shook slightly, and the first thing I noticed was how tired she looked. Not old exactly. More like a person who had spent too many years carrying one choice that never got lighter. "I never wanted any of this," she said. "Then tell me what happened." She looked at me for a long moment. "Your father and I had an affair. Brief. Stupid. Ruinous. When I got pregnant he panicked. Rachel had just had you. He said if the truth came out it would destroy both families. He paid me to disappear. He promised Caitlin would be safe and loved." My throat tightened. "And when did she find you?" 6 months ago. "How?" "She hired an investigator. She came here angry. Furious. Not curious. Not heartbroken. Angry. She wanted money first. Then answers. Then blame. When I could not give her enough of any of those things, she said she would take what should have been hers." My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Adam." Margaret closed her eyes. She said if she could not have the perfect family, she would build one from your ruins. Even Olive went pale. "Did you try to warn anyone?" "Your father, yes. I begged him to tell Rachel. To tell you. But he was more afraid of losing what little he had left than of what Caitlin might do." My phone buzzed. A family group message from Caitlin. "Surprise. Adam and I are hosting a reception tomorrow night to celebrate our return. Everyone is invited. Especially you, Kylie. We have so much to talk about." I showed them. Olive swore under her breath. "She wants a public scene." "No," I said slowly. "She wants control." A reception was not just a party. It was a stage. An audience. A place to tell the story before anyone else could. And if Caitlin wanted a stage, then that meant she was about to reveal something. Or destroy someone. On the drive back, my father texted me for the first time in months. "Do not do anything rash tomorrow. There are things you do not understand." I stared at the message until the letters blurred. That was the thing about people who live inside secrets. They always ask for patience from the people they are hurting. When we got back to Olive's apartment, my father was waiting outside. He looked older than I remembered. Smaller somehow. Like guilt had been eating him from the inside for years and had finally reached the surface. "We need to talk," he said. I followed him to a nearby bench, because part of me needed to hear it from his mouth. Needed to see whether he would lie to my face again now that I had half the story already. He lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. "You started smoking again." "The day of the wedding." I almost laughed. "That was what broke you." He flinched. "I deserve that." "Then start talking." He told me Caitlin learned the truth about her mother and changed fast. She became fixated on me. On my life. My relationship. My future. She said I got the family she should have had. The love she should have had. The certainty she never had. And you let her stay in the house. Stay around us. Stay around Adam. I thought I could calm her down. You thought wrong. He nodded like he had rehearsed agreeing with me because he knew he had no right to defend himself. Then he showed me a text thread. Caitlin threatening to expose Rachel. Claiming she would forge proof that my mother had known about the affair and helped hide it. Claiming she would destroy her reputation and turn the whole family against her. Did Mom know any of this? No. She is the only innocent one in all of it. And the accident. He inhaled sharply. I did not know until afterward. When I confronted Caitlin, she admitted enough to terrify me, but not enough to save you. She said Adam helped because he thought it would only delay the wedding. She threatened Rachel if I went to the police. I stared at him. So you chose silence again. His face broke then in a way I had never seen before. I chose cowardice. That was the closest thing to truth I had ever heard from him. Then he leaned toward me and lowered his voice. Tomorrow night Caitlin is going to accuse your mother publicly. She has forged emails, fake letters, all of it. She wants Rachel humiliated so the family will finally see her as the true victim. I felt something inside me go still. Not cold this time. Clear. She was not done. Even after taking Adam, and the wedding and the honeymoon, and nearly my life, she still wanted more. She wanted my mother too. Then I stood. Come tomorrow night, I said. Bring every real document you have. Every test, every receipt, every message. No more hiding. No more protecting her. No more protecting yourself. He looked at me like he had never seen me before. Neither had I. Back upstairs Quincy had more. Audio from Caitlin and Adam arguing in Bali. He had gotten into a smart device tied to their suite. Her voice came through the speakers smooth and venomous. Once Rachel is destroyed, everyone will have to see me as the real victim. Adam sounded frayed. The accident already went too far. We did what we had to do, she said. Tomorrow we finish it. That was when the plan changed. Up until then I wanted answers. Now I wanted exposure. Not revenge for the thrill of it. Truth for the force of it. If Caitlin wanted a grand return, then I would give her one. The next morning I woke before dawn on Olive's couch, with the kind of clarity that only comes after your life is burned down and there is nothing left to misunderstand. Olive helped me dress for war disguised as an evening event. Not in white. Not in softness. A fitted black dress. Clean lines. No apology. While she fastened my necklace, my phone rang from an unknown number. Hello. A nervous female voice answered. Is this Kylie Sullivan? My name is Sarah. I work at Marshall and Brooks. With your sister. Every nerve in my body tightened. What is this about? I know what happened to you, she said. And I have something you need to see. 20 minutes later we met her in a coffee shop near the courthouse. Sarah was a paralegal with tired eyes and the expression of someone who had spent a long time deciding whether fear was worth swallowing one more day. She slid a USB drive across the table. Caitlin left her laptop open one night. I copied everything I could. What is everything? Sarah took a breath. Planning documents. Emails to Adam. Research. Notes about your accident. Notes about your recovery timeline. There are even backup plans if you woke up too early. My entire body went numb. Backup plans. She nodded. She researched how certain injuries affect memory. Which medications create confusion. Which doctors at your hospital could be pressured through legal threats if necessary. She had flow charts. Olive stared at her. Why are you doing this? Sarah rolled up her sleeve and showed us a scar near her wrist. 3 years ago Caitlin sabotaged my promotion. Not just at work. She had someone loosen the stair rail in my apartment building after I confronted her. I fell 2 floors. Everyone called it an accident. I almost believed them. Then I saw her email drafts. She looked straight at me. You are not the first person she tried to destroy. You are just the one she aimed highest at. I took the drive. That was the moment the story stopped being a family tragedy and became something else. A pattern. A method. A woman who did not just envy or lash out. A woman who engineered suffering. At the venue, Quincy met us in the control room. Caitlin had booked the same hall I had chosen months earlier. Same chandeliers. Same floral style. Same table layout. Every detail stolen and reused with such precision it felt like walking through a replica of my own future built by someone who hated me. It was perfect. Because I knew every inch of it. Quincy had already accessed the projector system, audio feed and security cameras. On screen I watched guests arriving. My mother in pale blue trying to stand with dignity. My father at her side looking like a man arriving at his own sentencing. Margaret clutching a thick envelope. Sarah slipping into the back with two former co-workers. Then more people arrived. Faces I did not know. People who had apparently heard whispers and came carrying their own proof. Former classmates, colleagues and ex-boyfriend, a woman from a legal aid clinic. One by one they walked in with folders, phones, screenshots, copies of emails, stories they had never believed would matter. Olive stared at the monitor wall. How many lives has she touched like this? Too many, Sarah said quietly through the earpiece Quincy gave her. We have all been waiting for someone to survive her. Then Caitlin arrived. Even on the grainy monitor she looked radiant. Controlled. Untouchable. Adam stepped out after her, and looked like a man already hearing prison doors in his head. Quincy turned up the audio. Stop looking so nervous, Caitlin murmured to him, as they crossed the lobby. Everything is under control. By the end of tonight Rachel is finished and Kylie will be too humiliated to show her face anywhere. My breath slowed. Not out of calm. Out of focus. Adam whispered something we could barely hear. What if she comes? Caitlin laughed. Then good. I want her to watch. That laugh did something to me. Not rage exactly. Something older. The sound of finally seeing someone without any of the disguises you once gave them. This was not pain making her cruel. This was who she was when she believed she had won. 2 hours before the reception started, more messages began coming in. Unknown numbers. She ruined my life too. I have emails. I am here tonight. She lied in court and cost me my internship. She seduced my fiancé and blamed me when I found out. I saved screenshots. You are not alone. Every new message widened the frame. What I thought was one nightmare was actually a trail. And suddenly the suspense changed shape. Because the question was no longer whether Caitlin had done horrible things. The question was how many. And what she still had left planned for tonight. That was the part none of us could fully see yet. We only knew she intended a spectacle. We just did not know how far she would go when cornered. Half an hour before she took the stage, Quincy handed me an earpiece. Last chance to walk away. I looked at myself in the dark reflection of the control room glass. 4 weeks everyone had spoken about me like I was absent. Helpless. Sleeping. Lost. Now I looked like the consequence of a mistake no one had anticipated. She had wanted me gone. Instead I came back. I put the earpiece in. Let it begin. From the monitors we watched Caitlin move through the ballroom greeting people like royalty. Touch on the elbow. Smile tilted just right. Voice warm enough to soften suspicion. It was almost impressive if you forgot what she was. Adam hovered beside her trying to imitate confidence and failing. At one point he pulled her aside near the stage. Maybe we should postpone, he whispered. This does not feel right. Do not start now, she hissed. We have come too far. That sentence hung in the air long after they separated. We have come too far. Too far for what? Too far into lies. Too far into crime. Too far into something even worse than what we already knew. I stood in the shadows just outside the ballroom entrance and felt every second stretch. This was the slower part of fear. The part before impact. The part where your body knows the fall has already started, but your mind is still waiting for the ground. The lights dimmed. Music lowered. Caitlin walked onto the stage with a champagne smile and took the microphone. Friends and family, she began. Thank you for joining us tonight. Adam and I wanted to celebrate our new beginning. But before we do that, there is a truth that can no longer stay buried. All eyes turned to her. Mine never left her face. Because I wanted to see whether she believed her own performance. She gestured toward the projector. For years certain people have lied to this family. Manipulated this family. Controlled this family. And tonight I am finally going to tell you what really happened. On the screen appeared forged emails implicating my mother in knowledge of the affair. Gasps rippled across the room. My mother looked stunned. My father half stood from his chair. Caitlin's voice sharpened with every word. Rachel knew. She knew who I was. She knew what my father did. She let me grow up believing a lie while pretending to love me. She treated Kylie like the chosen daughter, and me like the evidence of a mistake. It was all building exactly the way she wanted. Emotion first. Shock second. Humiliation third. A perfect public execution. Now Quincy, I whispered. The screen flickered. Caitlin frowned and looked back. The forged email disappeared. In its place came security footage of a parking garage. A hooded figure crouched beside my car. Then another angle. Adam by the entrance keeping watch. Then a timestamp. Then the gas station receipt. Then Caitlin's message. It is done. Come quick. The silence that followed was not normal silence. It was the silence of a room realizing it has been tricked into witnessing the wrong story. Caitlin's whole body locked. What is this? She snapped. Then I stepped into the light. No one spoke. No one breathed. My heels clicked against the floor, and the sound seemed to slice through the ballroom one measured step at a time until I stood where everyone could see me. Hello, Caitlin, I said. Miss me? The shock on her face was almost childlike for one beautiful second. Then she recovered. Kylie, she said into the microphone. You should not be here. You need rest. That line nearly made me smile. You keep talking like I died. A murmur rolled through the guests. Caitlin lifted her chin. You do not understand what you are seeing. No, I said. They finally do. Quincy changed the screen again. Photos of her with Adam in secret. Hotel timestamps. Cloud backups of messages. Research notes from her work laptop. Medical articles highlighted. Estimated coma durations. Impact force calculations. The room erupted in whispers. Adam stumbled backward from the stage. Caitlin reached for the projector remote. Stop this. Too late, Sarah said, as she rose from the back of the room. You should have logged out of your laptop. Caitlin froze. Sarah. Then another person stood. And another. And another. One by one people she had hurt rose from their tables like ghosts she thought she had buried. A co-worker with performance review alterations. A former client she blackmailed. An old classmate with screenshots. A former boyfriend holding printed threats. Each one speaking just enough to turn the room heavier. Not all at once. Not in a rush. Slowly. Like the truth had decided to savor its entrance. Every time Caitlin tried to interrupt, someone else stood. Every time she tried to deny, something new appeared on screen. She realized then what was happening. Not an ambush. An unraveling. A long, deliberate one. And then Margaret stood. The room shifted again, because people could feel this part mattered even before they knew why. She walked toward the stage with the envelope in her hands and tears already in her eyes. Caitlin whispered no so softly only the nearby microphones picked it up. Margaret turned to the room. My name is Margaret Wells. 30 years ago, I had an affair with Ivan Sullivan. Caitlin is my daughter. The room detonated. My mother closed her eyes. My father looked at the floor. Caitlin grabbed the microphone so hard I thought it might snap. You abandoned me, she shouted. Margaret did not flinch. No. I was paid to disappear. I have regretted my silence every day since. My father stood then finally. That part is true. I did it. Rachel knew nothing. You could feel the balance of the room shifting beneath Caitlin's feet. All night she had planned to make herself the wrong child. But the timing was not hers anymore. The evidence was not hers anymore. The sympathy was draining out of the room 1 second at a time. And still the most important reveal had not come yet. She tried one last pivot. None of this changes what Kylie took from me, she said. She got the family. The love. The future. Everything I should have had. I looked at her and for the first time in my life, I did not see my sister. I saw a person who had built her identity around theft because creating something of her own was too frightening. Then I said the thing that finally cracked Adam. Tell them about the breaks. His face went white. Kylie, please. Tell them. Caitlin rounded on him. Do not you dare. He looked at her. Then at the screen. Then at the people. Then at me. And whatever spell she had over him broke in public where everyone could watch it happen. You said it would only delay the wedding, he blurted. You said she would get hurt, not die. You said we would have time. You said. Shut up, Caitlin screamed. But he could not stop now. He pointed at the screen with a shaking hand. I was there. I used my card at the gas station. I thought she was just cutting things enough to scare Kylie. I did not know. You knew enough, I said. He folded in on himself. Yes. The word hit the room like a hammer. Yes. He knew enough. Not all of it, maybe. Not the full depth of her planning. Not the exact cruelty she would escalate to. But enough. Enough to become part of it. Enough to stand near my car while my future was being sliced apart under fluorescent garage lights. That should have been the end. It was not. Because Quinny looked at me through the control room glass and lifted the USB drive Sarah had given us. There is more, he said into the audio feed. The screen changed again. Email drafts. Detailed planning timelines. Backup strategies. Hospital contingency notes. And then one final file. A message chain with an unnamed contact discussing making a problem disappear permanently if the first attempt failed. The ballroom went still in a different way this time. Not gossip. Not scandal. Fear. Even Caitlin looked rattled. She had not expected that file to surface. What is that? I asked quietly into the microphone. Her lips parted but no answer came. Sarah spoke from the back. That is from the week before the accident. My father looked like he might collapse. My mother covered her mouth. I took one step closer to Caitlin. Were you planning a second attempt if I woke up too soon? She said nothing. That silence was her answer. The doors at the back of the ballroom opened. 2 detectives entered. No dramatic music. No shouted announcement. Just the unmistakable force of reality walking in at exactly the right moment. Caitlin Sullivan and Adam Mercer, one detective said. We are placing you under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and evidence tampering. You could actually hear Adam begin to cry. Caitlin backed away from them slowly. This is circumstantial. The detective held up the warrant. Not anymore. She looked at my father. At my mother. At Margaret. At me. For 1 second it seemed like she might finally say something real. Something stripped down and human and devastated. Instead she laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. You think you win because you exposed me, she said. Look at all of you. He ruined 2 families. She raised a child that was never hers. He helped me. Adam betrayed Kylie. Margaret vanished. Every one of you is rotten. I am just the only one honest enough to stop pretending. That might have worked on me once. Not anymore. No, I said softly. You are the only one who turned pain into a weapon and called it destiny. The detective reached for her wrists. Wait, I said. Everyone paused. I stepped up until I was close enough to see the mascara beginning to crack under her eyes. You wanted my life so badly, I said. My fiancé, my wedding, my future, my family. But the truth is none of that was ever what made my life worth having. Not Adam. Not that dress. Not that venue. Not even the plans I thought I wanted. The people who loved me are the ones who stayed when everything burned. The people who told the truth. The people who chose me when there was no reward in it. You did not want my life, Caitlin. You wanted to erase your own. And now you have to live with it. For the first time all night she looked afraid. Not furious. Not theatrical. Afraid. Because truth lands hardest when there's finally nowhere left to put it except inside yourself. They cuffed Adam first. He would not look at me. Then they turned to Caitlin. As they led her away she twisted back toward me one last time. This is not over. I almost felt sorry for her in that instant because I knew what she still did not. It was over. Not because she had been arrested. Because the story no longer belonged to her. After the police took them out, the ballroom exploded into sound. Phones ringing. Reporters arriving. Guests shouting questions. Chairs scraping. People crying. People confessing. People realizing they had helped a monster build a stage. But in the middle of all that chaos, I only saw one thing. My mother was standing very still near her table like her body had forgotten how to move. I crossed the room and took her hand. She looked at me with tears pouring down her face. I am so sorry. For what? For not seeing. For not protecting you. For loving her and missing what she was becoming. I pulled her into my arms. You loved her because that is who you are. That is not your crime. Then something small and devastating happened. Margaret stepped closer like she wanted to speak, but had no right to interrupt. My mother looked at her for a long time. Then reached out. And the 2 women, who had spent 30 years on opposite sides of the same secret, began crying in each other's arms. My father stood nearby with tears in his eyes and no permission from anyone to be comforted. For once that felt exactly right. The ballroom emptied slowly after that. Statements were taken. Evidence collected. People introduced themselves to me with apologies they had waited too long to make. By the time Olive got me back to her apartment, the sky was beginning to pale. I sat on the couch still wearing the black dress, feeling like I had aged 10 years in one night. My phone would not stop vibrating. News alerts. Messages. Tags. The story was everywhere. Attempted murder plot exposed at wedding reception. Bride arrested after coma, victim returns. Law firm associate linked to premeditated crash. The internet was doing what it always does when someone's private hell becomes public content. But beneath all the noise there was one message that made my hands go cold. Unknown number. You think you are free now, but I will always be part of you. No name. No signature. I did not need one. Olive looked over my shoulder. Is that her? Probably. I typed only one line back. No. You are just the worst thing that ever happened near me. Then I blocked the number and set the phone face down. A week later Adam took a plea deal. 5 years and testimony. Caitlin held out longer, because women like her always believe the force of their will can still bend reality, if they keep insisting loudly enough. But eventually even she pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. 15 years. When the news alert came through I did not feel triumph. That surprised me. I thought I would. Instead I felt tired. Tired all the way through. Because justice is not the same thing as restoration. A sentence does not give you back the body you had before impact. It does not return trust. It does not erase the image of your sister in your wedding dress smiling over the grave she thought she had put you in. The hardest part came after everything was technically over. Packing. Choosing what version of your old life deserves to survive the wreckage. I had decided to leave for Paris with money from a legal settlement, and a need for distance so deep it felt like hunger. Not to run away. To breathe somewhere my name did not arrive before I did. The morning I left sunlight poured through Olive's apartment windows while I zipped a suitcase, and tried not to think about the fact that starting over is just another word for grieving with direction. Olive leaned in the doorway. You really doing this? Yes. You will send me obnoxious photos every day. Absolutely. Then my mother arrived. We sat together on the couch for a long time before either of us spoke. Finally she said, Margaret, and I had coffee yesterday. I waited. She showed me baby pictures of Caitlin. There was so much pain in her voice it made my chest ache. I loved that girl, she whispered. I do not know what to do with that now. You do not have to stop loving the child you raised, just because you finally saw the woman she became. Tears filled her eyes. You almost died and you are comforting me. I smiled weakly. Maybe I got that from you. She reached into her bag and handed me a small velvet case. Inside was her old camera. The one she used all through my childhood. For your fresh start, she said. That nearly broke me. Because before Adam, before wedding plans, before my life narrowed around becoming someone's wife, I used to love photography. Not casually. Fiercely. The way some people love oceans, or music, or fire. It made me feel awake. Somewhere along the line I had set that dream aside for a future that looked more practical. More stable. More admired. And now here it was again in my hands. The thing that was mine long before any of this happened. Not stolen. Not borrowed. Mine. There was another knock. Quincy with final backup copies of everything. Then Sarah, who came to say goodbye and handed me a business card for her cousin's gallery in Montmartre. In case you want to build something beautiful after all this, she said. I looked around that tiny apartment, then at the people in it. Olive. My mother. Quincy. Sarah. Later a text from my father saying he and Margaret were trying to talk honestly for once, and that he did not expect forgiveness, but hoped maybe one day he could earn a reply. It hit me then that family had changed shape. It was no longer about blood or history or roles we were assigned as children. It was about who shows up when the lie collapses. Who tells the truth even when it costs them. Who helps carry you back into your own life. In the taxi to the airport, Olive hugged me so hard I laughed through tears. My mother pressed the camera into my lap. Sarah reminded me the gallery offer was real. Quincy told me to send photos. As we pulled away, I looked out the rear window at the city where I woke up in a hospital bed and learned my old life was gone. The courthouse stood in the distance. The hospital beyond it. The reception hall farther down, where everything finally shattered in public. And for the first time those places did not feel like wounds. They felt like proof. I survived there. I told the truth there. I came back there. My phone buzzed once more. Another unknown number. I did not open it. I turned the phone off completely. Then I lifted my mother's camera and looked through the lens. The world narrowed into a frame. Light. Shadow. Motion. Distance. Ahead of us the airport shimmered in morning sun, and beyond that was Paris, and beyond that a life I had not yet lived enough to ruin. The driver glanced at me in the mirror. Ready? This time, when I answered, I did not have to force the word out. Ready?